The G-men at the scene of murder, an experimental case at the crime detection laboratory. The victim, affectionately known as Oscar. A typical set of clues, everything placed in cellophane to keep it in original condition. The murderous weapon never touched by hand so as not to obliterate fingerprints. The FBI students in solving the murder of Oscar find a partly eaten apple. A drinking glass is a likely place for fingerprints. Everything is examined for these telltale marks. And there, up pops fingerprints made by Oscar or the killer. Here's where we'll find out. The scientific crime-busting laboratory where sleuthing is done by ultra-modern technology. The great period of G-men scientific crime detection began in 1934 when Congress, at the request of the Attorney General, enacted a series of crime bills placing interstate crimes such as kidnapping, bank robbery, extortion, and transportation of stolen goods under federal jurisdiction. That made crime detection a national science. Now with convictions in 97% of the cases the FBI has brought to trial, not including the murder of dear old Oscar. On that gun are fingerprints. They will convict the killer. This is the G-man science which has helped in the conviction of more than 11,000 federal offenders during the last 3 years. There are fingerprints on the glass to clinch the conviction. The FBI costs $5 million a year, while the amount of fines, savings, and recoveries of property exceeds $35 million a year. And now the telltale fingerprint is enlarged 400 times on a screen for the detailed study and comparison in avenging the cruel murder of Oscar. Remember that half-eaten apple? Teeth marks in it. They use moulage to study that. Moulage is a kind of paste that hardens and makes a perfect reproduction of objects. John Hamilton, brains of the Dillinger gang, shot by the G-men, died later and was buried by the mob in corrosive lye. When the G-men found the body, it could only be identified by his teeth and dental work. Teeth mean much to the skilled investigator. The footprint at the scene of the crime, reproduced by a plaster cast. This might be the mark left by any one of the 12,000 murderers who kill each year in the United States. They do this same thing with the marks of tire treads. Then the plaster cast is matched with FBI blueprints of every known tire tread design. Moulage reproduction is so perfect, you can hardly tell the copy from the original. There's cunning murder in the .45 automatic, which was made into a machine gun for Babyface Nelson. The cast of a hand might keep the record of a scar, so perfect that you can take fingerprints from it. The handwriting expert tells us, if you write, you are caught. And here we find how far the work of the G-man reaches out beyond gangs, robbery, and murder. The FBI is responsible for investigations under 75 federal statutes, from antitrust laws to espionage, from bank frauds to treason, crimes on Indian reservations to bankruptcy. You can't disguise your handwriting. You can try, but you won't fool the G-man. The evidence in a real case, a pair of trousers. They were sent to the FBI by the sheriff at Wauchula, Florida. A powerful vacuum extracts the dust from the cloth. Will this match with the soil at the scene of the murder? If it does, it will prove that the man who wore those trousers was at the scene of the murder. The dust is examined by a microscopist. He peers through a petrographical microscope with polarized light. And this scientific laboratory service is available without cost to every police department of this nation. Wauchula, Florida murder case, this was a critical clue, a stain on the trouser. Was it human blood? The chemical solvent is filtered through and transfers the substance of the stain to filter paper, which is put through a cunning chemical test. The FBI laboratory is equipped to analyze any substance that may be found at the scene of a crime. The chemical test for blood, by applying a few drops of colorless benzidine and hydrogen peroxide. This will detect blood diluted as much as 1 part in 300,000. Even laundering does not remove the trace of blood from cloth. If that's blood, the chemical reaction will form a vivid blue. It does. The experts testify, and the murderer is sentenced to electrocution. One of these 4 knives was used to cut a screen. This was evidence in the burglary of a government office. The knife that cut the screen will have in its edge minute particles of the zinc and copper of the screen wire. The invisible particles on the knife are burned in an electric arc. The light emitted is passed through prisms and forms a spectrum. Spectrographic analysis. Astronomers use it to analyze the stars. G-men use it to detect crime. The band of light shows the characteristic lines of zinc and copper, proving that the knife cut the screen and that the owner of the knife is guilty. Gangster guns, each with a murderous history. The .45 caliber revolver carried by Alvin Carpus, a gangster's gun seized, and it may have fired a bullet found in the victim's body. Pretty boy Floyd's gun. He didn't notch it. He notched his watch charm 10 times. Here's how the G-men proved that a certain bullet was fired from a certain gun. You can shoot a bullet into cotton and it will retain the gun barrel markings. These are studied by ballistics experts. Scratches and striations, as individual as fingerprints. This is a comparison microscope. The eyepiece brings the 2 bullets into juxtaposition and matches exactly those markings and striations. When the criminal fires a shot, the gun marks the bullet as if he had written his name on it. So here's the handwriting on the bullet, an open page for the G-men to read. The light that shines in the gun, the helixometer, a powerful electric bulb no bigger than a grain of wheat. It reveals the story within the gun barrel when it was fired last. You can tell even who owned it and the pocket in which it was carried by the tiny bits of lint from cloth. Yes, the science that has hunted down all those public enemies and solved every one of those notorious kidnappings. There's no crime that cannot be solved. The firing pin that hits the cartridge can reveal a criminal. And firing pins launch the fire that blazes away the menace of organized crime. Rain or shine, the special agents are ready for combat with public enemies. Day or night, not trigger men, but prepared to shoot and shoot straight.
There are 3 needs in America today in law enforcement: the elimination of politics from law enforcement, emphasis on efficiency, and cooperation between police agencies. We should all be concerned with but one goal: the eradication of crime. The Federal Bureau of Investigation is as close to you as your nearest telephone. It seeks to be your protector in all matters within its jurisdiction. It belongs to you.
That means, gangsters, you can't get away with it.